You'll remember the count 'em, eight crystal balls our experts submitted following Riley Leonard's entrance into the transfer portal. Well, they were right. The former Duke quarterback has committed to Notre Dame. The Irish bring in a high-profile transfer at quarterback for the second straight cycle. Just one of many headlines coming out of South Bend lately. So let's welcome on our friend Tom Loy of Irish Illustrated to break it all down for us. And Tom, starting with Riley Leonard. I joked that this really wasn't much of a surprise. We kind of saw this all coming down the block, but what can you tell us about how this all happened?
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, it was pretty obvious from the start that, and talking to Matt Zenitz and Chris Hummer and the other guys, we all were on the same page. Like, Notre Dame was going to land this kid, and it was going to work out. It did get a little dicey at the 11th hour, and things got moved back. Like, it was an announcement this day, and then it got moved back to the next day. So in the end, everything we pretty much reported at Irish Illustrated was spot on, other than the exact day that he announced. So felt pretty good about our reporting there. But yeah, it's a big pickup. I'm trying to replace Sam Hartman. And this is the perfect fit, especially when you lose some guys along the offensive line. You want a guy who can throw the ball downfield, an NFL talent, and a guy super athletic like Leonard is. So this is an ideal replacement, a guy that actually will take this offense to another level, in my opinion, especially with the other weapons that they brought in on offense. So I think Jared Parker, they were very productive this year. They had some really big performances. They also had a couple letdowns. I do think that a lot of those are going to go away next year, and I think a lot of people are going to be singing his praises as an offensive coordinator rather than taking shots. So, really excited about Leonard. Like I said, I really do think this is a tremendous fit. He completed 64% of his passes, 20 TDs, 6 interceptions a year ago. This past year, he dealt with a ton of injuries. So you're not really, if you look at the stat sheet only, everybody's confused, thinking like, oh, maybe this isn't, the world beater that some people think he is. But he's a really good fit. I think he's going to do a lot for the current quarterback room if they stick around. You got Steve Angeli, Kenny Minchey, you got CJ Carr coming in. To be completely honest, when they play Texas A&M, I don't expect all 4 of these quarterbacks to be here. I do think some guys, one of them will probably move on, and I think that makes the most sense. But in the end, I really think that Marcus Freeman, Jared Parker, and these guys did a really good job of landing arguably the best guy in the portal.
Yeah, it's one thing to land a top quarterback in the portal. It's another thing to do it seemingly twice back-to-back seasons. What does it say, though, about Parker's ability to be able to bring in somebody who he hasn't necessarily developed within the program and get them ready to go year one? How much is he kind of showing that special skill of his?
That's a big deal, but it went well beyond Parker and Gino Guidugli and Freeman. Chad Bowden was involved. I mean, there was guys that were working really hard. I mean, I tweeted out that this was an entire staff operation, so it wasn't really one guy that got this done for Notre Dame. They took it to heart that they wanted to do this as a team. Players were involved. They really did when they put the video out, Riley Leonard's video, it included Xavier Watts, Ben Morrison. So again, they had so many people involved. They made this really a team, a family effort. They always talk about the brotherhood at Notre Dame, and they really used that to their advantage, which I really thought was cool. When he posted the video, it wasn't about Leonard. It wasn't about what he did in the past and this and that. It was all about Notre Dame, and that's really what Riley Leonard's about. He's about his team, and I don't necessarily think Duke fans would agree with that right now, but Notre Dame fans are thrilled, and I know that everybody in that building is fired up about the future with Leonard as QB1.
Well, you said it. He's going to need somebody to throw to, and Marcus Freeman added some help in that department. You got former Clemson wide receiver Beaux Collins and former FIU wideout Chris Mitchell, both committing to the Irish recently. So what kind of weapons does Leonard now have at his disposal?
Yeah, they definitely had to replace a lot of guys with, Rico Flores, Tobias Merriweather, Chris Tyree, and Braylon James all leaving. So I really like the pickup of both, to be honest. I'm fired up about Chris Mitchell. I think he is one of those talented players and playmakers in the country. His speed is next level. He had 64 catches for a little over 1,100 yards and 7 scores last season at FIU, and he's a game wrecker. He's a guy you have to account for, and a lot of facets on offense, and just super excited about that kid. He really takes the top off of defense, and he can run. So he's also, alpha personality. He thinks he's the best player on the field at all times, and I absolutely love that about him. So big pickup there. And then Beaux Collins. I mean, go back a couple of years, and we were talking about how Notre Dame's got a chance with this kid from California that's visiting for summer camp, and that was Beaux at the time, and he ended up obviously choosing Clemson out of Bosco, but it comes full circle, I guess, a couple years later. But tremendous fit academically, athletically. 38 catches for over 500 yards and 3 scores last season at Clemson. Dealt with some injuries here and there, but this is a guy that Notre Dame's very excited about. They talked about the production that Kevin Austin had a couple years back at Notre Dame, and they believe that this guy can be even better and kind of really take his star to another level and really cement himself as a future NFL draft pick. So again, these are 2 really big pickups for Riley Leonard for the offense, and it kind of all of this put together is why I think that we're going to see a much improved Notre Dame offense. And again, they had a really good season last year on offense, but I think that you're going to have a lot of those little mistakes. They had so much young talent playing that I think bringing in some veteran guys, I really think that this offense is going to take another step forward.
We always kind of joke that in the transfer portal era that these fans of teams are going to have to watch their first games with a fresh new report on all of the players because, I mean, especially on that side of the ball, it's going to look very new on offense, so make sure you have the roster handy. On the other side of the ball, Notre Dame added former Duke defensive end R.J. Oben, so what kind of impact can he make year one?
Yeah, you got some more defensive linemen to replace. Nana Asafa-Mensah is off to TCU. Javonte Jean-Baptiste is off to the NFL. So it's a big kid who can play all over that defensive front. 6'4", 260, had 17 tackles, 6 for a loss, and 5 sacks last year. Again, another guy that Notre Dame is thrilled to land. He was a top of the board guy as soon as he entered the portal. They wasted no time. And again, it was interesting because the initial intel I received was that it was Notre Dame versus Florida State. And then I was told by another source connected at Duke that Florida State probably has the lead, which surprised me because this goes to a pipeline high school in New Jersey that had Notre Dame had a lot of success at. And then he's a tremendous fit at Notre Dame. So it really shocked me that they weren't the team to beat. But obviously it took one visit. Al Washington, Nick Sebastian, and those guys on the defensive side of the ball blew him away. It was a great quick visit, and then obviously canceled the Florida State trip. So big win for Marcus Freeman and the gang, and he will be a difference maker, an immediate impact guy, and a guy that will play a ton next year.
That's certainly what Notre Dame fans are hoping to see. I'm sure people watching right now were hoping that I was done asking for likes, but for those watching live right now, we're like 10 likes away from 100. I'd love to see it hit triple digits. You saw Tom. He knows what that like button looks like. Big old thumbs up. And what's also fantastic is you're not just locked into Notre Dame news. So I got to ask about Maalik Murphy. Not necessarily a surprise that the former Texas quarterback entered, but what are you hearing early on with him now officially on the market?
Yeah, I've kind of heard a lot over the last 24 hours, and this was obviously an expected enter of the portal. Really strong arm, terrific talent, but the guy needs to play. It's just that simple. So the team I'm actually watching is the team we just talked about when Riley Leonard was there. It was Duke. I know that new head coach Manny Diaz gives them a great shot. I was told that that's definitely the team to watch. He goes back. I think the relationship between Manny Diaz and Maalik Murphy goes back to when Murphy was in like the 8th grade. So they have an outstanding shot. Keep an eye on Baylor. Jake Spavital, the new offensive coordinator there, is somebody that again has connections to Maalik Murphy and his camp. So there's a prior relationship there. You got Oregon State. Ryan Gunderson, who makes his way over there from UCLA and San Jose State before that. Another strong relationship with Murphy, his camp, and people around him. And then another 2 schools that like to keep an eye on, but like I kind of consider them a long shot right now, is Georgia. If Carson Beck heads to the NFL, like I might throw an immediate crystal ball for Georgia, but my expectation and from sources I've talked to, the expectation is that he's going to stay in Athens. So, but again, if he leaves for some reason and catches some people off guard, like watch out for Maalik Murphy and the Bulldogs. But the other one is Washington, and I think Chris Hummer talked about it earlier, was Will Rogers. Everybody watching to see if he goes and ends up with the Huskies. But if he doesn't, that would absolutely be a fit for Maalik Murphy, and I'm told to keep an eye on them. But again, everybody's just kind of waiting to see what Will Rogers does. If he doesn't commit, then Maalik Murphy quickly sets up a visit to Washington and keep an eye on them. But, gut right now would probably be Duke as the team to beat that I'm watching closely.
And despite not having played a whole lot of college football, Maalik Murphy is kind of a household name because we've been talking about him potentially entering the portal since last spring. So what can you tell us about the timing? Why was it important that he entered now?
It's the perfect opportunity. I know it's not ideal for Texas fans and what they have in the future. But you know what? Like, it's time for Maalik Murphy to be a little selfish. And I think I think the majority of fans and coaches, I think everybody understands that this is his time. If he takes his time and he waits for the playoff run to end and he waits longer, multiple opportunities will be off the table, and he won't be able to go where he wants to go. And if it's honestly one of these 3 to 5 schools, they're all great opportunities, a chance for him to be QB1 and for him to show how elite his arm really is and give him a shot at the NFL. If he waits it out and he takes a back seat and he wants to be a team player and win a national championship or at least compete for one, that's great, but it doesn't get him any further to see in the field and really closes the door on a lot of opportunities. So you'd hate to see that for a kid who's been very unselfish throughout the process, and he's kind of waited his turn and sat back and been a team guy first. So I think everybody that's connected to Maalik Murphy, everybody close to him, they kind, and he agrees, I'm sure, but they all felt this was the right time for him to be a little selfish and focus on him rather than just the team. It's
definitely a unique position that he is put in, just with the timing. We talk about the calendar right now and how chaotic it is. It also puts some athletes in this position to make tough decisions. One more. You also had a report about former Ohio State quarterback Kyle McCord saying that you are told to keep a close eye now on Syracuse. What's the latest there?
Yeah, that got really weird. Totally expected him to end up in Nebraska, and then obviously Dylan Raiola and all that came to surface, and now everybody expects him to make that flip from Georgia. So as soon as Kyle McCord, the news broke that he wasn't going to go to Nebraska, I had 2 people text me literally within 5 minutes that said, watch out for Syracuse. Fran Brown is going after him. He's priority number 1, and they are doing everything they can to get him. So I'm not completely writing off Nebraska. Somebody told me to keep an eye on him, but I don't think that's going to work out. But yeah, 2 people immediately said, watch out for Syracuse. So that would be a huge win for Fran Brown.
Okay, Fran Brown has been bringing in all sorts of visitors lately, so looking forward to seeing potentially him landing that first big fish. Tom, thanks for being on the show. We know that you'll be all over it, and you can check out his work at irishillustrated.com. Tom and the crew have you covered when it comes to the portal.